Turn my mic on. Welcome, everybody, to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, special meeting being held Thursday, October 7th, 2021 in the City Council chambers. We also have two currently of our commissioners, waiting for a third one, who are connecting with us through Zoom. So, and then Commissioner Convery and myself are here live. Okay, and so Cheryl, can you go ahead and do a roll call, and then we'll watch for Commissioner Prebor to come in?
Yes. Chair Eakins?
Here.
Vice Chair Convery?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner McCatton?
Here.
Commissioner Prebor. She has not yet logged in.
Okay, we'll watch for her. If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and follow after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
There we go. Thank you all. Okay. Public communications submitted by email will be provided to the Historic Preservation Commission at this time. Do we have any emails that we received, Cheryl? Okay.
No.
Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will generally be referred to staff and/or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting. So before we get into discussion item number one, just a couple items. Yesterday morning, I found out that there, with I think the city council going back to 6:30, that we only had 30 minutes that was going to be available for our meeting prior to the city council meeting. And so we took a pause on that and I've talked to Mayor Sticks, and she has emailed City Manager Vega, so we're looking for a time slot where we will have a full hour to.
Really? They didn't bump everything up an hour? Like if the city council moved to 6:30, they didn't move special sessions to 5:30?
Mayor Sticks, when I talked with her, came up with several alternatives, but they involved either doing 30 minutes at this time, 30 minutes later. We both agreed that wasn't best case. She offered to pulse the other council members to see if they could adjust their schedule. And I've been in city council meetings when they're trying to schedule a meeting, and it's very difficult to make that happen. So I said the best case for us, and we thought, and again, very nice of her to make those, changes. Best case for us was just to try to find another hour when we could all meet and talk about this. So there will not be a meeting next Tuesday in a joint council meeting for us. Just some guidelines today. We have the ad hoc committee meeting that's been meeting for quite a while now. Big thanks to Gina for amazing work she's done. You'll see that, and Craig Walker for all that he has donated, or all the time he has given, both as a part of this and a part of other things. So what we're going to do is a run through of the presentation. So Gina will do that. And this is similar to what we'll do with the city council. I mentioned this when I talked to Mayor Sticks. So she will do the run through. We will not have questions taken at that time. So I recommend people write their questions down. And then after the presentation is over, then we will open it up to questions. It's important for us as commissioners to get our questions answered in this meeting because we want the time in the council meeting, the joint council meeting, to be questions for the council. And so any questions that the commissioners have, please ask those, or corrections or suggestions or anything. This is the time to do that.
Can I make a comment before Gina starts?
Of course.
We discussed in our last meeting a very, very, very short one paragraph or like 6 sentences about why a historic core is valuable to the town. And I know, Brian, our time is really limited, so you're ambivalent about the 5 minutes that would go to that. But the last time we had a joint meeting with the city council, Commissioner Blatt said he didn't believe historic properties were valuable. He didn't think they contributed anything. Well, he didn't say those exact words, but, he implied that the value was, he didn't consider it valuable. He considered it a hardship, it sounded like. So the point to me is that if they don't understand from the beginning basically why it's valuable, doing a presentation, it won't be as effective. I did some research, and since the numbers have been collected, since 1980, every single study shows that historic downtown cores are up at minimum 20% more valuable, raising the value of the city as far as tourists, as far as real estate property, as far as rentals, as far as visitors. It's just across the board, 100% proven. And I made a little note about some of those towns and the studies that were done. So I just wanted you to consider that little piece of education in the front end. I think it's important for them to know that it is statistically proven to be create Ojai more valuable, because that's their job, is to protect our businesses in our city.
I agree with what you said. Cheryl, can you let the record note that Commissioner Prebor has joined us? Okay.
Hi.
Gina, did you want to say something?
No.
I wanted to say something. I think I addressed that in the, I think I gave a little bit of history and why it's important in the presentation. So why don't you listen to the presentation, and then if you feel that it's needed in there, then we can figure out how to do it. And I would like to think that that was, I think, one of the very first meetings that he attended. And I'm sure that he is much more seasoned now as a councilman to what's important as to the city of Ojai. So that could just be, a new gut response. But I think that over time and being, working on council for all this time, I think that I would like to think that there was a new acknowledgement of the importance of our downtown. So what I would like you guys to do is, if you can, I'm showing presenter notes. This is not how the council would see it, because they would just see the slides. I'm showing you my notes. I may not read them exactly because they're my notes, but I want you to be able to read them and have a really clear understanding of what I'm saying. And if you have any questions or anything with it, just write down the slide number. And then at the end, we'll just start going back through the slides and clarify, change the wording, whatever we have to do to make it everybody in agreement that it's ready to go. Okay?
Yeah, and I understand both of your comments, and I appreciate your making them. So there is one other item that has popped up, and actually not very many people are aware of it. It came about a couple weeks ago in regarding another item that's outside the Historic Preservation Commission's purview. Don Teeting remembered when back in 2017, Caltrans came. I know they came to the museum. They came to us in 2017, and they mentioned that they were going to be coming through doing the ATP. They were going to do a study in Ojai because they were going to talk about the curbs, the gutters, the sidewalks. Greg Grant came to that meeting, and we listened to that. We had several other big items like whether this place was going to be a historic landmark that were in that agenda. And then we heard nothing about that. I know I asked, a couple of years later, was there a report on that? And the response I got was that nobody knew. So Don Teeting, a couple of weeks ago, in preparation for a planning commission meeting, emailed City Hall and asked for a copy of that report. She then got the report. She then forwarded it to Craig and then myself and Gina. And it is a 242-page historic resource. It's an HRER. I was talking with Dawn last night. She told me what that stood for, but I forget. A historic resource report that basically goes through and self-identifies in that report and looking at the Ojai historic downtown. And that term is used often through that report. It is what we have done as a part of the commission and then as a part of the ad hoc committee with Gina and Craig working closely together, is we recreated all of that information, the information that Gina's going to share with you, not knowing that there was another report that basically goes hand in hand, again, 242-page report done by the Caltrans people that I looked at their curriculum vitae, their experience goes decades of history. And so they came in and did an in-depth, thorough report, and it goes hand in hand with the report with the information that was put in the ad hoc committee meeting. And we're asking that that report be distributed to the city council just because they should know that information is available.
So Brian, I should probably.
So I
it's
think
4:13.
the fact that goes hand in hand, it comes from a little different viewpoint, but hand in hand, and is recommending that downtown is not only eligible for whatever, they didn't look at local requirements, they looked at state and federal, and it was what they talked about was putting the downtown historic district as a state, be submitted as a state and a federal. So, yes, Gina, I don't want to run out of time because we got another meeting coming after us. So.
I'm just afraid because we have another meeting at 5 that we're not going to have a lot of discussion time afterwards.
Another meeting at 6.
Oh, it's at 6. Okay.
But we should be done by 5 because they have to get ready for the 6 o'clock meeting.
Okay, good. I thought they were coming in right at 5, so at least we got a few minutes there. Okay. So can I try to share my screen? Is it ready to do this? Yes?
Yes. So Cindy, so what I'm saying is basically we have our report and now we have this 242-page that report that it's seriously, it's like that. It's so nice. And I also think that report should be shared with all of the commissioners. Oh, okay.
Can everybody see this and hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Gina,
the
can you do me a favor and make it full screen? Is that possible?
I can't because you're not going to be able to see my notes down here.
Oh, okay.
How far is it away from you guys? Is it pretty far?
Okay. We could read it.
Okay. All right. Okay. The HPC respectfully acknowledge and honor the Chumash tribes and those descendants who lived among us today, the original people of the land upon which our city stands. Hello. Thank you for your time being here tonight. It's been a long time coming. We first presented to you an idea for a downtown historic district a few years ago. At that time, it was very early in the game and merely an idea. Before COVID, it was built around the idea of doing a large-scale reports on many properties in the area, and by requesting that, we also requested a great deal of money to be in our HPC budget. We left that meeting feeling like we had the support of the idea, but there was warranted hesitancy about the cost. We decided to go back to the drawing board and begin our own research through an HPC ad hoc to really take the time to research and understand the area, the history, the need, the benefits, as well as the costs. Then COVID happened. In fact, COVID happened right at the beginning of the development of our ad hoc and our next scheduled joint council meeting. Our meeting was scheduled just days after the city shut down. At that time, we pivoted solely to the acknowledgement of budgetary restrictions in this unprecedented time. So this project was created with frugality in mind. One of the positive things to come out of COVID was time. lots of time. Brian, Craig, and myself, through regular Zoom meetings, met often to work to understand the area and every structure in it. And when scheduled commissioner meetings occurred, we updated the HPC. Jump ahead 18 months, and the presentation before you is much different than the one presented 2.5 years ago. So much so that we ask if you can look at it with fresh ears and eyes. The first item to discuss is the map you have before you. This is a working map that we feel represents our research for the Downtown Historic District. The map shown in its entire district currently being discussed here tonight. These are the 3 types of structures in the district: contributing landmarked, contributing historical, and non-contributing. So we are all using the same language. Let me explain each of the 3. Generally speaking, contributing means the property contributes through its own history to the fabric of the district. Non-contributing means it doesn't. It's either too new, too altered, or simply lacks the historical significance needing to be contributing. So we decided the most cost-effective way to do a downtown historic district would be to anchor the area with already landmarked structures. By anchoring the proposed district with existing Ojai landmarks, we were able to get a good idea where the downtown historic district would be and would make most sense. Starting with our landmarks, there would be no question to the contribution that they would make to the city. Currently, there are 16 landmarks in the prospective downtown historic district map. Those are in the first category of contributing buildings we call contributing landmarks, and they are in orange and they are sprinkled throughout the district. The next set of contributing buildings, contributing historical, are historical structures that the ad hoc has agreed through extensive research that they substantially contribute to the history of Ojai's downtown. There are 44 of these structures, and they are gold on the map. Each structure has been researched until all routes were exhausted and either presented itself with enough information to be contributing, like Bill Baker's Ojai Bakery building, or it defaulted to be non-contributing. These properties must meet at least one criteria to be considered contributing, and some meet many. A criteria like criteria E, for example, would describe its embodiment of elements of design, detailing, materials, or craftsmanship that rendered it architecturally significant. We learned that these historical structures might already have historical reports, either by the property owner or the city. They may also have reports done by the County of Ventura for their research on Ojai history. These buildings are steeped in Ojai history with good documentation, which include information from the Ojai Valley Museum, the Ojai newspapers through the years, the Ojai history website maintained by local historians, through published articles, and through thorough interviews with longtime residents, as well as being documented in the history books published on Ojai history. At the end of the day, if our research didn't produce enough well-documented information, then the property was deemed a non-contributing structure. We struggled with a few properties, understanding that they brought some history to the district, like the Susan Cummings Bliss Yogurt Building, and others were more obviously non-contributing, like the Chevron Station. So non-contributing properties are gray on the map, and they are structures that are included in the Downtown Historic District based solely on their geography. And as you can see here, mostly concentrated behind the arcade and in the blocks of Matilaha and Aliso. They are either built after the 1950s, are clearly not associated with the downtown's historic themes, or do not meet a definition of a character-defining element of the district. Simply, these non-contributing buildings did not fit the criteria for historic structures. And what rich history we have. From our valley's deep history of the Chumash to its strong ties to the Mexican ranching community, Ojai has been a special place for generations. Ojai's downtown grew out of a desire to build community. And as the city celebrates its centennial, we can follow the path of these last 100 years to know that the downtown that we know today happened in large part of a serendipitous partnership with a generous winter resident. By 1914, Edward Drummond Libby and the newly formed Ojai Valley Men's League set out to discuss ideas for improving the little dilapidated western town of Nordhoff and transforming the town to the architecturally rich city that stands before us. Mr. Liddy had clear ideas based in City Beautiful model, which promoted the idea that beautifying a city is beneficial to its residents because the beauty of a city would inspire civic loyalty, strong commerce, and a sense of community to raise each other up and create something bigger than a beautiful building or a nice park. Libby's idea was to take this model used for large cities and adapt it to our small town while enhancing the aesthetic of its natural environment, one that was cared for by Ojai's original Chumash people. In fact, it's no coincidence that the towers, domes, and arches of the downtown complement the surrounding trees, rocks, and mountains. By making these thoughtful, cohesive decisions for the future of Ojai and its many inhabitants, the newly transformed downtown Ojai would be considered as a whole instead of by its parts. Mr. Libby created the downtown as an asset for the future of the city. Mr. Libby hired the impressive San Diego firm of Frank Mead and Richard Requa to coordinate their collective efforts and to create an artistic, cohesive design. Mead and Requa's Spanish-style architecture was meant to capture the old-world look of California's Mission days. Although Mission-style Spanish Village never existed in the 1700s, the new Ojai buildings were designed to look like they had been built by the Spanish. Requa even instructed that vines should cover the new buildings to enhance the illusion that they had been built long ago in the 1700s. So in a sense, Ojai's downtown business district has been a historic district since it was new in 1917. By 1916, construction had begun on the arcade, the post office, the pergola, and the civic center. These new buildings, designed according to City Beautiful principles, transformed Nordhoff's ramshackle collection of aging Old West stores into a quaint Spanish village with unifying design themes based in Spanish and Mission architecture. Mr. Libby then challenged business owners to get involved by beautifying their own stores and properties, and everyone did. In fact, not only did the town merchants and residents rise to the occasion, but the county did as well. There was a clear acknowledgement that there was something here to be recognized. And soon, county paved roads into Ojai. They brought in better infrastructure, and the future of Ojai was brought into focus. Ojai was one of the first small-town, Spanish-style City Beautiful makeovers. Good choices were made in the beginning. In fact, it was such a success at the time that other towns began to emulate our Mission Revival architecture and City Beautiful model, and even including our neighbors in Santa Barbara. You can see Ojai's Mission Revival influence in other cities, including San Clemente, Rancho Palos Verdes, Westwood, and Rancho Santa Fe. Downtown's Ojai was built as a civic center of our town, and that is how it's continuously been utilized over the last 10 decades. Years of celebrations, gatherings, festivals, parades, all happen right here in our downtown. And it was done so thoughtfully that no matter the changes going on in the world, little was needed to change the downtown to keep it relevant. When you're on Ojai Avenue and you are seeing the same sights that people saw 100 years ago, and that's miraculous. That's through 2 pandemics, fires, earthquakes, war, and progress. Our downtown still stands as it did 100 years ago, because generation after generation of business and property owners, city council members, mayors, neighbors, stakeholders, through many, many changes, believed that this was worth preserving. And miraculous is the perfect word to describe it. The Libby Park Pergola was demolished in 1968, but entirely rebuilt in 1999 because of a renewed understanding and appreciation of Ojai's rich history. And it was done consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standard for reconstruction, using the original designs. There was also a time in 1990 where the whole arcade almost came down. How detrimental that would have been. It would have changed the charm, the draw, and the appeal of our entire historic downtown. So here we are, and we might all walk away on this beautiful evening in 2021 in agreement that the downtown is worth preserving to keep Ojai unique, beautiful, valuable, historic. But what about the next commission or the next city council? What about 20 years from now and 50 years from now? That is why now is the perfect time, while celebrating Ojai's 100th anniversary, to create a downtown historic district. Now let's talk about why. I know a lot of people will automatically think, oh no, more red tape, more mountains to move when you want to get anything done in the historic district. But I like to start with showing you how that's not always the case. In most cases, property owners already face rules, regulations, and guidelines for structures in the downtown area, and it's often cumbersome and confusing. Streamlining the overlays and guidelines within a historic district puts the regulations all in one place, making it clean and concise. Historic contributing buildings are currently part of the overlay and follow guidelines that already have them coming before the city, as well as before the HPC for input. And our landmark structures also have a set of rules and guidelines as well, and additionally often enjoy Mills Act tax incentives. And speaking of incentives, there can be many financial incentives for property owners in a historic district. The city could provide incentives like a reduction in permit fees. Also, there are ways for the city to adjust tax code for contributing properties in a historic district. So contributing properties could apply for Mills Act tax credits, which are currently only available to our landmark structures. Mills Act tax credit encouraged property owners to renovate and restore historic features. And being part of a historic district gives it that extra push because historic building codes favor old structures with relaxed zoning requirements. Of course, all of this is voluntary, but when property owners and merchants are part of something bigger, like a historic district, it comes with a town pride, just like 100 years ago when the downtown had its makeover. Shopkeepers and property owners rose to the occasion to create a cohesive and beautiful downtown experience. And beyond fee reduction and tax credits, there are other factors that make being a part of a downtown historic district valuable. Merchants do well in historic districts by forming their own group, like Merchants of the Ojai Historic District. So instead of thinking themselves individually, they can market themselves as a whole, saving money, reaching a larger base, and increasing sales. Historic districts are known to have a positive impact on both residents and tourism. There are even social and psychological benefits from living and working in a historic district. Tourists that search out quaint historic towns, they look to immerse and educate themselves in its city because structures in a historic district come alive and tell its story. Historic districts challenge your experiences, tickle your senses, and make you think. It opens up new dimensions to an authentic Ojai experience, the real Ojai that we all love. And for the historic district's non-contributing structures, we might ask that changes be brought before the HPC, but 99% of the time, those changes wouldn't be an issue. Those requirements would most likely be the same that they are now. A non-contributing property in the downtown area would already be in talks with city planning if they were considering a large-scale project. The location is already bound by zoning and regulations. For a historic district, non-contributing properties would simply need to be appropriate, complementary, compatible in size, and not distract from the historic character. And that doesn't mean a new structure or a remodel would even need to be in the Mission Revival Spanish architectural style. In fact, to find that it isn't. I know the city has long-standing guidelines about Spanish architecture in the downtown, but really, you should be able to look at a historic district and know what's contributing and what's not. For the city of Ojai to have a downtown historic district means that we won't have to run out and landmark contributing buildings in the downtown historic district because the district itself would create a preservation umbrella, because collectively these have meaning and tell Ojai's rich history. So creating a historic district can keep Ojai valuable, strengthen neighborhoods, provide an incentive for rehabilitating historic buildings, and promote a sense of neighborhood and community pride. The preservation of Ojai's past is the key to building a prosperous and sustainable Ojai's future. So what would make Ojai's a downtown a historic district? What is the criteria and how do we know for sure? As we've shown you this evening from our research and documentation, we have every reason to firmly believe that our downtown is worthy of historic district designation. Luckily though, you don't have to take our word for it. We have an incredible 242-page document made for the city of Ojai that backs this all up. A refresher, in case you don't know about this document or don't remember, the city of Ojai wanted to make improvements for pedestrian and bicycle safety on Ojai Avenue. Because there would be a use of federal funds to do this, it's kind of triggered a bunch of necessary reports on the area. In fact, too many to list now, but you can find them on page 3 of this 242-page document by Caltrans. Many of these reports focus on historic resources and list many of the big guns in preservation: the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, the California State Historic Preservation Office, the National Historic Council of Preservation Act, the National Register of Historic Places, the California Environmental Quality Act we call CEQA, and their criteria for inclusion in the California Register of Historical Resources. It's an incredible find that we are so grateful to get our hands on. Seriously, if you haven't already, it's an amazing document that you should all read. I promise you will learn something. I know we all did. What's most interesting about this document that came out in April of 2018, besides the HPC not seeing it, is that this report that is professionally and thoroughly researched came up to the same conclusion that we did with our HPC ad hoc, that our downtown should be and needs to be a historic district. The difference is we looked at it for a local historic preservation district. and the Caltrans document determined that our downtown should be eligible for both nationally recognized historic district and state of California recognized historic district, which is pretty amazing. Which explains why, although our maps have the same shape and much the same information, the HPC ad hoc map covers a slightly larger area because the criteria for local landmarks will usually be different from national landmarks. Our date of significance is also different for our local downtown historic district from 1874 to 1950s, while the Caltrans document hones in on the dates of significance being 1917 to 1929, the Libby period of transformation to the Spanish Revival architecture. So, although we felt up until last week when this document resurfaced that our local historic district was complete, ready to present to you with a nice bow on top, this new information clearly lets us all know that we could also be applying for California and national designation for historic districts, which could simply mean that while the city moves forward with local destination, the HPC ad hoc could review this newly discovered information and work to see what needs to be done for state and federal designation. So what we have here is a district within a district. A national historic district would be part of our local historic district, one that focuses on a more defined, narrow scope of history, which has already been evaluated and found eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, and the locally defined district from 1874 to 1950s, reflecting the growth of the development of the downtown from the founding of Nordhoff through the historic era, covering more themes and periods of history and architecture than the Caltrans defined district, which focused on Libby's vision for the transformation to the revival architecture. So what are we hoping for this evening? Well, we'd like to have council's support for the creation of a historic downtown. Not only has 18 plus months of ad hoc meetings combined with thoughtful and intensive research produced solid information that our town is worthy of a designation of a historic downtown, but this well-researched document came to the same conclusion. So what's next? Well, assuming that we have your support to continue down this road, at our meeting this Thursday, we would like to formally request that council proceed with creating a downtown historic district using the information that we have discovered here, as well as what has been thoroughly documented. Because we need to have a public forum and time to contact property owners, we would ask that it be expedited onto a future council agenda so we might be able to accomplish this before Ojai's centennial celebration comes to a close. Just like 100 years ago when Ojai was in favor of incorporation, one of the board of trustees elected that day was renowned architect Frank Mead. Libby's lead on the downtown redevelopment project. His presence ensured that the city planning and beautification would be an important priority. Today, 100 years later, that responsibility now rests upon us, the city of Ojai. Local businesses and townspeople have discovered the importance of preserving the downtown historic buildings. A formal historic district would not only provide guidelines for protecting the historic architecture that already exists, it will provide guidelines for future development of the downtown to ensure compatibility with its historic character and vision. On August 5th, 1921, the city of Ojai was born, in part to ensure that the seed Edward Libby planted, a beautifully historically themed commercial district, would be nurtured as the city grew and prospered. And now the question is, can we use the centennial as a catalyst to formalize this and get it done? Because if not us, then who? Yay, done. I am done speaking. I need a drink. There we go. So, questions?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. You all did a very good job researching. It graphically looks great. You know, I have a few comments, but it's very thorough.
Okay.
Extremely very good, really well written too, and you also speak very well when you talk about it with passion, and you're very clear. So
Good. I'm glad my mic works now. Do you want to start, one of you, just with comments, and we'll walk
I
through
have
it?
a couple
and-
comments. The first thing is, I really think, I know you were pressed for time, but I really would like you to slow down in
Okay, yeah,
the presentation. And maybe that means cutting a sentence out of each slide, you know, because there's a lot of information. But it's you were racing through it because of the
I
time
was.
pressure, and it's hard. You know, we all know a lot of this, But if you're speaking to a new audience, I think it needs to be just take a breath, that kind of thing. But I made some notes on some of the slides, and back on slide 6, when you first showed the contributing buildings, I think as soon as you show that, and I don't remember where the words are, it says when you say contributing landmarks, and you can go on with that, you need contributing landmark highlighted in gray, contributing historical in yellow, non-contributing, whatever the colors are, because you introduce them, but you don't tell us what colors until whatever.
No, they don't until the next slide. And
yeah,
then
but I
you're
think
not-
because
then you're
Randy
not seeing the
pointed
map.
that out, he's immediately
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah. Well, I
go to
do-
there. There's
part
like
of
no
the-
patience with an audience, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
Part
that
of
would
the
give you a chance
package-
to get rid of the next slide and introduce it there and save, 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, they will have a map as part of their package.
Yeah, but I think then and there is when, because they're going to immediately, well, what is that,
So, okay.
The other thing is slide 11, you said, is Bill Baker the end of the historic thing, or is it Ojai Road T, which is the next building? I can't, Oh,
This
okay. I
is-
couldn't tell when you were talking because, it was going by so quickly. If you were talking about that's the end of kind of where the historic area is, because there's the one more building after that, but that wasn't it, right?
Right. This is just saying that, this is just
Okay.
giving an example. I just randomly picked
Yeah.
one that we all know and love that we can sit there and go, okay, this isn't a landmark, but it contributes. And
Yeah,
this is
okay,
why.
so that makes sense. And then on slide 31, let's see.
The Thomas Fire?
Yeah, you said generation after generation of business and property owners, members, et cetera, stakeholders believed that it was well worth preserving. I think that could be much stronger. You could say every generation since Ojai was incorporated has worked very hard to preserve the downtown, and we need to continue that. I think it needs to be much more definite because it's not like, they worked their little butts off for the last 100 years to keep Ojai from turning into what I just drove through to get here an hour ago. So, I
Okay,
would
well-
really like that to be a much stronger, that we have a tradition to uphold. It's our responsibility. Everyone who's lived here protected it for us, and we need to do the same thing, whatever that wording looks like to you,
Okay.
if that
So,
makes sense. Yeah,
Lucas?
just stronger.
are you
Slide
there,
30.
Lucas?
Sorry, what?
Is Lucas there?
Lucas is
Lucas.
here.
I just
I'm
want to
here,
know
yes.
if I want to share changes with Cindy, do I go through you? I can't send them directly to her, right?
Yeah, if you want to, you can send them to me or you can send them to Cheryl first. Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, because the next slide, we'll probably have to talk about it. 38, slide 38, the Mills Act. What's actually much more valuable to business owners, property owners downtown are state and historic tax credits. That's worth so much more money. So the Mills Act should actually be the small print, and state and historic tax credits should be the large print. And, that's where people really do well when they're restoring. I had a conversation with the movie theater owner about historic tax credits that he's working with, but they can, financially, that's really where the money is on a historic remodel.
Okay.
So, yeah, so point that out. Slide 47. I would cut that comment way down because it was so full of information, and I would say this is, generally speaking, I can't reword it right now, but just because it was a lot of information to absorb, but
I can just say the big guns. I don't have to say
the
everybody's name.
Caltrans report determined that Ojai qualifies for state and federal historic preservation. That's what's important in that report. You know, there's a lot, just say there's a tremendous amount of information
Yeah.
in here that I would love for you all to read, but the most important thing is that Ojai qualifies, which will create a much more valuable economic base for our town. Historic, designated National Historic Districts, the property values increase 5 to 35% per decade over other property values. So if Ojai goes up 35% per decade, just regular, and it becomes a nationally recognized historic district, that will bump up to 60%. So it can double the property values over a decade. So that's why that's important, you know? It's about money.
Thank you. And Cheryl,
Yes.
I have another question.
Uh-huh.
So if I want to, never mind. It doesn't make sense now. I'll wait to the end.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you have any other?
Just slide 53, which I think is
Oh,
that
I know
the
what I was
last
going to
one?
ask. I'm sorry. It's my
Sorry,
brain
slide
after all that.
53.
The question I had was, is this being recorded?
Yes, it's being recorded.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I'm trying to write down every single
Oh
thing.
yeah,
that's coming
no,
out
I'll
of
figure it
Cindy's
out. I'll
mouth
email
and-
it to somebody, or you can email. We'll all email each other
Okay,
separately.
good. I'm
Yeah,
trying
Lucas
to
will be the
frantically write
go-between.
everything you're saying, and I
The
just
courier.
look back at it. Okay.
Slide 53. I think this is where you said requested that they designate. I don't see the sentence exactly, but what's next? You know, we request that the council, et cetera, et cetera. I think it should be just a hard sell. You know, like you don't have to say what's next. You can say based on the research we've done over the years, you could use the word request. I think it's too soft. I don't know what a better word is. That the city council move to designate our historic core to increase the economic value of Ojai, commensurate with other national historic downtowns. You know what I mean, Gina?
Yes.
Like sell it.
Okay.
And that's it. Those are my notes. It's a really good presentation.
Thank you. There's so many amazing pictures too that have come from the
Yeah. What's the
museum.
date on
Just
slide 10, the El Roblar? What date was that photo?
That was one of the postcards that I have the back side that has the date, but I don't have it in front.
Brian,
of me.
what do you think that is? It was built in 21? Yeah.
Oh,
There are so many postcards of the El Roblar. Some are just
Yeah.
with like no landscaping, some with a ton of land, just like all different directions. That's pretty. So many rich postcards alone on that.
where'd you find the postcards?
Well, Brian started a collection of. He told me a couple years ago. I think at one of our meetings that he collected postcards in Ojai, and I was like, well, that's a good idea. And I've been getting them off eBay, and they're just really fun to kind of search out.
It's nice, very good.
I just have a comment. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I just had a comment about, is it relevant to have all of those dates on those slides? Like, you know, we're saying, is this 20s or 30s or 40s? I mean, should we consistently have the date of the image, or to show that it's, you know, been going on for 100 years?
Sure.
I mean, I just wondered if that was important. And
Well,
then
I do it on some, and I don't do it on others. So I should either. It's like I should do it on all of them, or.
I mean, I think it would be cool that relates to my other question of, so is this going to be open to the public? Like, it's at Libby Bowl, right?
It's open to the public, but I think that our once we get approval, I'm going to speak optimistically here, then we're going to have public outreach, and that will be more publicized to the public to come and talk. And
Well, I
see
was
us.
just-
Excuse me, but I don't
thinking,
think
like-
joint sessions are open to the public, are they?
I was wondering
are.
whether
They
the
are?
public would be sitting on Tuesday listening to this.
They won't
I
be
don't-
here Tuesday, we're not doing it. So.
Tuesday got canceled.
Oh, Tuesday got canceled. Okay. So when we do this,
We don't know yet.
will the public be able to attend
Yes.
this first pitch?
Yes.
Anybody else? Can anybody answer that? Because I'm not sure.
All the meetings that we're doing, Jenny, are public. All of them.
I didn't hear what he said.
All of the meetings that we hold on this
Can't hear either.
are public. Sorry, I'm worrying about my mask, not the mic. So all the meetings that we hold are public. Because the city council is still meeting at Libby Bowl for their council meetings until, I think as Lucas told me, until it gets too cold to meet there.
Let's meet it early.
I think they plan on meeting there. And so hopefully with our joint council meeting that is postponed, just because of the time frame that we were left with, then it would either be at Libby Bowl, again open to the public like all council meetings, or it would be a meeting here. Those are the two options going
or
forward.
100% virtual. But the idea is to try to get everybody in at the Libby Bowl
Yeah.
Yes.
later. So
Yeah,
we're working
I
on
would say.
on getting that schedule updated.
Jenny, I actually didn't realize it was open to the public because I think the last time we did it, there was no public 2 years ago.
Well,
But
the-
I think each one of our commissioners should look for 10 people to come and speak on behalf of the historic core. That'll give us 50 public comments in favor.
That's what I was thinking.
When we do the public outreach, if we do this, we're not gonna be able to have a one-on-one back and forth with council members if we only have an hour.
not for public outreach, just to show support to the commission, the city council.
If they can write letters, that would be really great. But if they're all going to speak, we're not
No.
going to have time
Yeah,
to
I
talk.
think they can
Well,
come
what
and
about
show their
what about
faces.
if they're invited to listen? I mean, this is information that, I think I can think of 10 business owners off the top of my head that don't know this.
Right.
So
Well, no one knows this really yet. Which is when I wrote this, I had you in mind, Jenny, because I was like, if I can reach her and have you get behind this and understand it and think it's a good idea for your business, then I'm doing my job. And so that's was my goal here tonight.
right. So I feel like my questions are really leading towards well, one, I didn't know that it wasn't going to be next Tuesday, so I kind of had that in my head. And
Me too.
when is the new date?
We don't have a
it
new
yet.
date yet. That's what Lucas was just trying to say. So he's working with the mayor as well as with the city manager to get us in, and as Lucas said, trying to get it in so we can meet at the in Libby Bowl. So
But when? I mean, what, like, are you thinking November? Are you thinking, or what just like in general? 'Cause-
Jenny,
yeah.
that's a good question. This just the whole conversation just started yesterday morning,
Oh,
and
okay.
yesterday
I'm sorry,
morning I
missed
talked
that.
to after a meeting. I then talked to Mayor Sticks. Shortly after we talked, she sent an email off to James Vega, who's on vacation, his first in 18 months, and sometimes getting a meeting scheduled is difficult. But
I'm worried. I'm
they're
worried
doing
a
it
little
as soon
bit
as they
about
can.
moving into holidays and merchants and the public be focusing on other things, and wondering if it would be at all possible to get something at least before Thanksgiving.
Fingers crossed.
I'm just worried about the time. That big chunk of time.
I do have to say I am leery about there being a lot of public outreach before we get council to buy into this, because I think we're being presumptuous to think that. I mean, I want to get them, because last time we didn't walk away with a clear understanding of yes or no, and that's why we went back to the drawing board with this. And we need to walk away with their support first before we talk
Gina,
about,
I disagree.
going to
But
public.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say I disagree too. I'm feeling like we want the public to be behind us first, or not necessarily even behind us first, but how are we going to educate them if this is our first presentation to them? I mean, this could be our first presentation to a lot of, a lot of these townspeople too. And I just kind of feel like it has to happen, at the same time.
So
That
what
we're
about
stronger.
if we end up getting stuck and not getting before council within the next few weeks, what about having a public forum while we're waiting?
No.
I don't think,
Okay.
I don't
No.
think that's a good
Nope.
idea.
Yeah, that's not a good
very
idea.
solid no.
Okay?
Okay.
No.
Gina,
So-
really, my experience with city council over the many years, sorry to interrupt you, Brian, if I
No,
did,
go ahead.
is that they really respond to when the citizens come out and express their opinions. That's what they want to hear. Are we doing what Ojai elected us to do, what Ojai wants? And whether or not they write in or speak, just the fact that they come to the city council meeting and make that effort is extremely meaningful. So if we were each able to get 5 or 10 people just to come and sit in the front row, it's a really interesting presentation. I think it's pretty easy to get people to come, especially if there are cookies and it's sunny and we do it early. But, I just think that when you're looking out and you're seeing that people really care about this, when you're looking out from the stage at the audience, that's the impact. There will be other times when people can comment. There will be further meetings, city council meetings, and petitions and whatever, picket lines. But I think for
Picket
this
line.
meeting,
I
we
mean, I
don't
was
need a bunch
thinking
of
the same
comments. We
thing.
just need the people to
Right.
show up and clap when you're finished.
And I also think that it's, when you're in Libby Bowl and you're looking out and we have, every merchant who's in the arcade, say, or who's in the downtown, simply sitting there, not even speaking, but interested enough to show up and be educated as well. That I feel that there's a lot of power in that. Like Cindy said, without, we're not, I don't think we necessarily want to ask them for comment. I mean, we want to educate them first. And we put them all right up in the, first couple rows and people can see them. And I feel like that I will add value on our behalf.
That sounds incredible. If we can get the merchants to come.
2 attendees?
Just to show up. I mean,
I don't understand.
There's 2 people in the audience.
Are-
There's 2 people in the audience virtually.
That are what?
That are in the audience virtually.
Oh,
Now?
okay. Yeah, they're welcome to. So a couple things. One is we have had joint council meetings. They are open to the public. Nobody shows up because they either don't know about the meeting or they don't care. But they're always open. I know I've arrived a couple times for a city council meeting at 7 and the planning commission meeting is still going on when I arrive and I sit there and enjoy their joint council. This meeting, again, we have 1 hour. We want that time to go towards the presentation. We will ask and again, I went over this with Mayor Sticks, what our hopes are. We would ask the city council to hold their questions until the end of the presentation like we did. And then we would hope at that time, and again, this goes back to what Councilman Haney said to us in our last HPC meeting, then we would entertain questions from the city council. Do we want a bunch of people that are going to come in and raise public comments right at the beginning? That's their right to do so, but personally, no, we don't. We've worked very hard to get that 1 hour with the city council. You can see it's a hiccup even nowadays, and we would like to concentrate on what we're putting forth to the city council and do it in the format that we're doing now. As for the people being informed about this process, Commissioner Combry knows how many years we've been talking about this and in different meetings and talking about it as action items. So again, if people aren't aware of what our efforts are, that's because they don't know, they haven't signed up for the email, or they don't care.
Yeah. I think what you just said is a good suggestion when inviting, if we're each going to invite groups of people to express to them that this is an educational meeting for the city council and it's not really, I mean, the discussion is allowed, but it's really about learning what we've been doing and absorbing that and then coming back for the next time with thoughtful questions. So encouraging our guests, whoever we bring, to just listen.
And think about the time, period that you mentioned at the beginning of when the process started, and then it was COVID, and then you know, and think about, well, for me as a merchant, I can think of 10 new merchants.
Yeah. Hey, Jenny, you just gave me a good idea about the merchants because I know they want to attend, and I was thinking about the couple of meetings that I've been to with the merchants, and they're always like at 9 a.m. before everything opens, or you know, there's always a window, and maybe that's something, Brian, to discuss with the mayor and the other council members, that many merchants are interested in this. They would really like to attend. And is this something we could do at Saturday at 9 a.m. or something like that, if that's reasonable?
You know, I think that's a great idea. Again, keep in mind, the process that we're going to the city council is for them to say, yes, we encourage, we accept what you've been doing, we encourage what you're doing, and we encourage you to move forward on it. Rather than, and then there are additional outreach steps that will take place once we have the blessing from the city council.
Yeah.
And what's an example of what those would be, Brian? I mean, what would those outreach be?
What's tended to happen, and we've seen this in different efforts, such as the Noroff Grammar School in landmarking that. So, but basically what we're doing is we go to the city council and we get their go-ahead but we don't go do a campaign and all of this work outside of the approval of the city council, because then basically we're stepping on what is their responsibility, and that is outreach to their voters who elected them. So we're trying to be very careful not to overstep our bounds, because that has happened in commissions.
I would hate to miss I mean, I get exactly what you're saying and the fine line. I would hate to miss an opportunity to educate people, you know, and simply have them listen. I mean, and I think you're right. I think you're right in the way that, like, if people don't know about it, then obviously they don't care. But I think you're wrong in the way that I think there's a lot of people that kind of would really have no way to know about it, because they're just not in that, you know, either they haven't been here long enough or they aren't used to showing up at these meetings, you know, or even really, I mean, there's a small group of people that know that they can always show up and they can always make comment.
I agree with you, Jenny. I run into people like that say, oh, we didn't know, and how do you find out? And I always tell them to go to the city website and sign up for the emails that come out every time there's a new agenda. And that's what I do. I'm signed up for the Planning Commission, the Art Commission, the Rec Commission, because I want to monitor what's going on, because what they do at some point may influence us. So I agree with you completely.
I just wanted to also mention in regards to the merchant meetings. So when those happen, you know, a lot of us are not members of the chamber. So automatically all of this stuff goes out to people who are members of the chamber. And then there's kind of this next level of information that flows to a whole group of people that are involved, but not a paying member of the chamber. So there's kind of a trickle down of the information getting out there, and it's relevant to everyone. But you know, that's I mean, you just have a very big map, and I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how many new business owners or building owners
Yes.
there?
I mean, just over the last 18 months, we have another spreadsheet that will be part of the package that I showed it, a different one that listed every gold in the map and every orange in that map, and the name and the property number and the property owner and what's there now. We just keep updating that because it's
Yeah.
it's changing faster than I remember historically it changing, with COVID and with everything. It has been, it's like, oh no, take this name out, put this name in now. And it's so yeah, I think that as commissioners, we all have to play to our strengths. And I think that's when I think we will hopefully, I can work with you, maybe making a trifold for the merchants so that there's a physical something that also tells the bullet points and how to get involved and what it all means to them. Might be helpful too once we do get past this first stage of getting
Right. And you mentioned, you mentioned a lot about business in your presentation. And I mean, if we were going to go that route and do something for business owners, merchants, restaurants, whatever, we could pull out that and highlight that, because I think that's just so important. And I think it's really important even for the person who isn't a business owner, who's just interested in the fact that they live here.
Yeah.
So
which is what
I
Libby
agree.
planned on when he made this. I mean, that was the whole thing.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be
Exactly.
the civic center of the town. Yeah.
So I agree with you, Jenny. I'm looking around, and I think I've been to more city council meetings than everybody in this room combined. That includes Lucas,
Probably.
that's been here for 2 years. So again, going back to what Cindy said, basically what we're doing is we're making a presentation to the city council. Our goal to come away from that is to have the support of the city council. Once we have that support, then we would work closely with them in getting this information out, because as you can see, we're all very proud of the presentation that was put together with Gina and with Craig and others, and would love to take that on the road to anybody we could get to show up.
Yeah. One of the things that 2 years ago when we had that joint meeting, and then the year before that, I remember there was pushback about financially a historic core. How much is it going to cost? How much is a report going to cost? We don't want to spend $5,000 or whatever it is. So actually the report exists, so that is nice, and I don't know who paid for it, but I think the information about the property values increasing substantially if it's a historic downtown core, above and beyond the regular appreciation. Houses that are adjacent to historic cores appreciate faster than regular housing when something isn't designated. So it's really an investment in Ojai, to keep it as valuable and to articulate a path forward for design consistency and economic vitality. And I think when the city council is told that up front, because I think I was new, things were changing a lot back then. People were leaving HPC, there were new council members, so we weren't really addressing the money. But at this point, it's necessary money to spend to keep Ojai valuable. If they don't spend it, Ojai's going to lose value. It's like fixing the
Right.
roof.
We've already all invested.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important talking point with the city council when they come back with who's going to pay for this and why should we pay for this.
I agree with you, and those are great points. And another point I discussed with Lucas that was brought to me by one of the people we will meet with in the council was the fact that the housing requirements that are coming out of Sacramento have now exempted historic districts from those. So
Win-win.
yeah, so there's another benefit to
Yeah,
historic
good.
districts.
So we could use that with the housing element challenges
Yeah,
they're
so
facing.
we'll have that in our back pocket.
Good.
But again, yes, Jenny, this is if people want to come and find out what's going on, please come out and please listen.
Yeah.
But, save your comments maybe for the next meeting.
Yeah, it's just about scheduling it so
Educate.
that people can come. The
Yeah.
business owners are working all day, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
there,
part
it
of it.
definitely, a 4 or 5 o'clock meeting definitely doesn't work for
Yeah.
any of those people. But, I do agree with Cindy that a 9 a.m. and just, it for Lucas's benefit, and everyone trying to schedule, possibly that might work better for everyone else, considering how busy everyone is in the next couple of weeks.
I think that's a great idea. My suggestion would be, if we get that green light by the city council, is to rearrange the ad hoc committee and make it Gina and Cindy, and have them take the show on the road. Because they both have great knowledge, both
Yeah.
from all viewpoints. And again, we can only send two of us out at a time. So,
So is that the rule?
yeah, it's called the Brown
Oh,
Act.
it is. Okay. So,
Can we do two, or we can do three?
No, Bill Wyrick made
Two.
it so we can only do two. Just saying.
Well, there's,
okay.
I wish they'd
yeah,
change
so
that
two.
back.
We can
Now-
only
now
do
that-
two, yes.
Now that we're only 5 members, we can only
Yeah.
have 2.
Yeah, those are the good old days.
One thing
Okay.
I did want to point out, which was right on the very first slide that we couldn't see, at the Centennial exhibit, Mayor Sticks was our speaker, and she read the land use statement that is on our very first slide, acknowledging
Oh, good.
the Chumash people and the Chumash
Yeah,
lands. And
good.
so that was one of the things we talked about, one of the things we did want to emphasize, and Gina has incorporated that thought and that tribute throughout in her program, is the land that we came from.
So I think I'll ask Julie Tumamite to come, obviously.
That'd be
You know,
nice.
She should be part of the meeting.
The other thing
Val-
is, and we talked about this, is what led to the conversation yesterday. In the city council packet will be the criteria, the 3 criteria is what it's all about. The spreadsheet, the map you saw, and then there was a 4th item, Gina.
The 4th item was a part of the 242-page document.
Oh,
the
yeah,
part
that's
that
right. Pages
lists the
21 through
criteria and
41.
it's the 60s through the 70s in there. It's written down on that email I sent you. It's just the part that tells the criteria and the conclusion that the Ojai downtown should be a state and a national historic district.
Yes, and we want them to be able to see that map, have it,
And
right
their
in front
map
of them.
on
so
page
they
80
don't
something
forget.
is their map. Yeah, I think it's
But in the
84.
meantime, again, I make a request to Lucas that we get that report and that you send that out to the different historic preservation commissioners. We'd have done it, but we're not supposed to, so we did. And then also,
okay.
I think the city council members.
Yeah,
would
I
enjoy.
was saying that we can't say that we're trying to do this with, cost and frugality in mind if we ask you to make a hard copy of this 242-page document that has huge chunks of redacted information of the Chumash areas of just the ink and paper alone is not very environmentally friendly or cost friendly. So if we can just cherry pick the important parts, which is what's relevant to the
Yeah,
state and federal
I was thinking
part
of just
and
sending a
the
link.
map.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, just sending a link.
Right. So I
Right,
can
but-
send that. Yeah, I can send that to the full commission here.
Perfect.
For city council, I would be sending that to James, and then he could forward that on.
Great, great.
great. And then one last question. Valerie, did you have any comments on any of the slides?
Yeah, I did. I was real, that one slide 47, I really agree with Cindy that you should just do the most important point and not all the other stuff you were saying, because at that point, it's been so long that you're talking that it needs to be like bullet points about the national and
Yes.
state type thing. I think that's the most important point in that.
Yeah, I just think I had to get it off my chest of how important this document is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you told us, but I
Yeah.
think it's easier to follow if you just make it, so that people don't lose interest just because they keep talking, even though it's very well done.
Yeah. And
You don't
it's hard
wanna-
to get it out of my mouth without tripping up on it too. So
Yeah, good. Yeah. No, you did it really well, very clear, passionate.
I will go slower and I'll kind of trim it here and there so I could keep it the same time and speak a little slower. I think that's
Yeah.
the public
Cindy said
speaking
that-
part that, yeah.
Sentences if you're going to go slower too. So I think that's a good idea.
I have one more comment.
Yes, Jenny.
You know, there's a way to look at historic rituals that I think is kind of interesting and might apply, like for us, because at the beginning we mentioned the Chumash, and then at some point Gina mentions that the community becomes this place where these different rituals happen, right? So it's the park, and it's the city gatherings, and it's the pergola, and then the pergola's gone, and then we bring the pergola back. And you know, I think that over the 100 years, like, it's our historical importance is the whole timeline of the 100 years. So we're at the beginning, we're mentioning the Chumash, but every year we're making history. So I really kind of like that you bring up things, and I don't know if there's something specific, like, well, in 1974 there was blah blah, or even something about the Historic Corps has hosted this Ojai tennis tournament, and it's brought the city together and people to the city. Or I don't know if that's there's enough time, or even, but I think that talking about how we've been creating this historical town center for 100 years, might be an interesting thing to emphasize. You already do mention it.
Yeah, I show pictures of the downtown. There's a bunch of people dancing in the streets, looks like in the 1950s. And then there's our 4th of July parade. And then there's the Ojai Day with the Mandela. But
And maybe just to say, we have been creating this history for 100 years, and it's the continuum, right? I mean,
it's our responsibility to allow the next generation
right,
to create continued history and their
right,
memories, and that, yes.
I think you emphasized that really well. I got that point. I still remember that you were saying in continuum, we've been doing it for 100 years.
Yeah, I think that we, meaning they, the city council, are participants in creating our own history. And this is a moment where they can step up for that reason.
Yeah, she said that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to focus, like you said, on merchants, because especially with the last 18 months and everything, I want this acknowledgement that our core downtown is only as strong as the people who are in it. And what can we do to support those people to make them stronger and have our downtown be that much more of that civic center.
I mean, the timing is interesting, and that's why I asked about not getting too far down the road, because there's a lot of people that are at decision moments. You're going into the holidays, and do you run through the holidays and then you wrap it up, or can you go beyond?
And they don't even have council meetings in December, I don't think. So we don't do it in November.
I just think your message for business owners is relevant now, because business owners now are thinking, am I going to go through the end of the year and then be done, or am I going to be able to go beyond that?
Yeah. We are all trying to get this to happen just as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So yes, Jenny, thank you for sharing with us the merchant's viewpoint, because
Thank
that's
you.
very important to us. Truly. You're kind of straddling the fence, and that's a good thing. That's why we have members of the community on our commissions.
Hey, listen, I have my arcade sign coming up for review soon, so
That's
I'm
another action item we can't talk
pitching the
about.
committee.
So we will have another meeting next Thursday, so we can talk some more. We're just at 5:15, and I don't want to. Yes. Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, I knew,
Also, Jenny, if there's somebody who really
Okay.
you think wants to hear
Were
this
they-
now,
were
this
they here
will
at the
be on
beginning?
YouTube. I guess. I think if it's recorded,
oh, I thought it,
it'll
okay.
it'll be
thought it-
available.
sorry,
I mean, I'd
thought
rather
it-
have it
So
be the shiny
Yeah,
version.
so yes, please, we should
You
hear
mean
from
after
them.
this meet, like what we just saw?
So,
Yes.
yes, go
Okay.
ahead
I mean,
and put them
it's
in
a little
if you
bit
would,
messier
please.
and more nuts and bolts, and I'd like the
My mic
flashy
is on.
presentation to be. But if you think that
Right.
there's someone who needs to see it
Bring the first person.
now, it will be available.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Hey, Dawn's face. Hi, Dawn.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
Excellent. I wanted to make sure first all the commissioners got a chance to comment before. I just had a few comments. I know we're working on a time frame.
they did.
Okay. Excellent presentation and excellent discussion. I, as most of you know, worked on cultural resources and cultural resource awareness, just getting people up to speed and educating them on it was probably the critical piece in introducing everything that we did to make some progress on that matter. So I fully support education as well as outreach, and was wondering, I hear Brian's point, I hear the merchant's point, and perhaps into your working with the council, pitching to them, the suggestion of getting their blessing to take it into the public more. When we did cultural resources, it took the form of an ad hoc meeting with members of the public, as well as member of the city council, and that may be something that they need to appoint. I also think reaching out to the Rotary and women's clubs, like Brian suggested, taking on the road, anything you can do to educate. You may want to consider doing some kind of a press release announcing the meeting and just the concept of historic districts and the importance of historic preservation. If it's okay, I'm just going to run through my comments and then you guys can volley them afterwards. Is that okay?
Sure.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm just looking at my notes. So
Do you want me to share my screen again, or are you okay?
no, I'm good. I
Okay.
took some notes. So education outreach, ad hoc. Yeah, so adding something into the slides, offering to the council that that may be the next step, educating the public and make sure that this is something that they want also. Press release, maybe an op-ed, saying that you're excited to reveal this concept and talk about it more. And then I was thinking perhaps a FAQ, a facts sheet on what is a historic district, something that you can direct people to on a website. What is it? I think one critical piece that I didn't hear is what does it mean for the owner? I know from cultural resources, it stoked a lot of fear in people's mind. I can't do anything. I can't touch my property, which isn't true. That's not what that is about. So I think with historic districts, it's very similar that there needs to be education. What does it mean? Can they change their property? What process is there they're going to have to go through? Because I think I can almost guarantee somebody in that council is going to bring up that question for you guys to address at this first meeting. And again, I think a lot of it, the key is going to be education. What does it mean? What is allowed? So something like a facts sheet, both for the council and the public. And then you may also want to consider with the package that's going to the council and the public, 1-page overview sheet. The presentation was a lot of visuals and not a lot of text. And I'm a texty person, as a lot of you know. So I think something that they can look at in front of them and follow along, 1-page, high level overview of what this is, the main points you want them to get would be really valuable to accompany the presentation. Again, going back, you probably should consider addressing what it means for the owners, hurdles with development. You may want to consider a slide and review the general plan and the conservation element and see if there's anything of value there specific to downtown. I have not looked at the Ojai general plan for specifically that. And again, it may be under the conservation element, but that is Ojai's guiding document for moving forward. Let's see. Participation, also slide number 24 referenced the businesses getting involved in the making of what downtown looks like today, back 100 years ago. And moving forward, you might want to think about how businesses can participate in creating this historic district. To really take ownership for where they are and put their place on the map and take pride in owning a piece of Ojai history and being able to share that. So there may be some, I know the business merchants have oftentimes come up with great things like that, but something to really get people involved in the process and make them stakeholders. Just about done. 2 other points. I heard what Cindy was saying about changing the colors to match the gold, yellow, and gray for whether or not it was contributing or non-contributing. And I was wondering if you might want to change the background of the pictures to even color code it when you're showing the contributing ones, give them a gold background, then the contributing but historic yellow, non-contributing gray. I know that doesn't keep with your color scheme of the theme, but it might kind of solidify what you're talking about in people's minds. And you might want to consider also keeping that map up during that introduction, because I think that map is key. When you were talking about contributing and non-contributing, I was trying to remember which properties those were on the map.
Right. Well, they will have a hard copy of the map, and they will have a spreadsheet showing each property and what it is and what it's color coded in the name. And our landmarks are A dash and then the number, and our contributing historic are B dash. So you can see on the spreadsheet it'll coincide. So maybe I need to explain that too.
Okay, but that's it. Congratulations to you guys. A lot of work, and I'm just thrilled to see it. And having been a friend of David Mason, I can see him standing up and clapping right now and applauding and just being so thrilled. So thank you for all the work you've done. It's wonderful.
Great. Thank you, Don.
Thank you
Greg?
for shining that document into our hands and our eyes.
Absolutely. It was serendipitous, so meant to be.
Yes.
Thank you. It's Craig.
Craig. Yes. My apologies for not getting you in sooner.
Oh, can you see me? Okay.
We can. They don't know you shaved your beard, so.
It was a great presentation, and you guys all raised a lot of really good issues, and Don raised a lot of good issues that I'm kind of glad now that there may be a little bit more time to digest all that. I can really understand that you don't want to get too much out there before the council meeting, because if people hear about this, they're liable to call the council, and the council won't have a background yet. So I think it's important to invite people to come and watch that presentation so they can watch along with the council, but then to follow up with meetings. When I was on the HPC, I went before the board of realtors and talked to them about landmarking and how it affects the value of properties, and they were very receptive and interested. And I see a lot of them really touting their historic properties in the advertisements. So I think that'll be an important phase of all of this. And the thing about the tax credits, I agree with Cindy that it should be mentioned that in order to get the 20% federal rehabilitation tax credit, it needs to be a contributing property to a certified historic district. So this process is necessary in order for these property owners to take advantage of that wonderful. I mean, when you go into big cities and you see all the historic renovations, a lot of that has been done with those historic tax credits. But anyway, congratulations.
Great. Thank you, Craig, and thank you for all your work on this.
And yeah, so much of this is, right from your words to my fingers, Craig. So you know that. I mean, we've been jotting down every thought and research that you've so carefully been sharing with the ad hoc for the last year and a half. So thank you.
Great, thank you all. Those are our only public comments that are there? Okay, thank you. Lucas, do you have anything to wrap us up?
Nope, I think it was a really great presentation. Looking forward to seeing this presented at the joint meeting in the very coming near future.
Excellent, excellent.
Of course.
Commissioners? Valerie, anything else?
See you next Thursday.
No, I just love her presentation, and I'm looking forward to when the city council can hear it.
Oh, excellent. Jenny?
I same thing, ditto. Love it and really want to get it on the books.
Great, thank you. Thank you for both for your contributions. Gina?
I just really want to get a date on there, and I wrote a lot of notes, and I'll go back and listen and try to address all the comments that were brought up tonight.
Great. And Cindy, the idea we talked about before we started the meeting, we can discuss that in our meeting next Thursday under commissioner comments, if that's okay with you.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
good.
Anything else, Cindy?
Nothing.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We're done.
Thank you.
5:28.
Okay.
Not too bad.
Technically, we were really supposed to be done at 5:30, so I lied. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Lucas. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, Mara. Yeah, Gina's getting faster with practice. She was 5 minutes faster than